Welcome to the Personal Brand and Leadership Podcast. This is the space where I guide you to elevate your leadership awareness and to build a powerful personal brand. I am Kareem Raymond, an expert in high impact personal branding, and my goal is to empower you to share an authentic and meaningful message with the world. In each episode, I will provide you with practical tools and strategies to help you take your leadership to the next level. Together, we will explore how you can discover and develop your true leadership potential and create a personal brand that aligns with your vision and purpose. If you're ready to start making a meaningful difference in the world, tune into the Personal Brand and Leadership Podcast. See you then. Well, I'm always very excited for all the guests that I have in this podcast. And today, particularly, I'm very happy and excited because we have one of my mentors, friends, and person that I admire the most in this field of being an author, which is Susan Friedman. Thank you so much, Susan, for being here today.
It's a pleasure. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Well, of course, I admire you, but I want to tell you a little bit why she is so awesome. So she's been 33 years in this field of speaking, writing books, working with authors. Also, she has written 18 books so far. I think is the person that has written the most books that I know personally. And one particular story that I would, of course, want her to share later on is that her first book sold 500,000 copies, which is is a very important number. Also, she is the founder of a company called Aviva Publishing. So she's been supporting authors throughout all the process of writing and publishing their books. And one other big accomplishment that she has is that she has a podcast that has already done more than 500 episodes and is in the 1.5% of the top podcast in the whole world, globally. And of course, is my mentor, is my friend, is someone that has me, that has been very championing me having my book, Use Your Bragging Rights in English. So thank you so much, Susan, for being here today and being willing to share a little bit of all your wisdom.
I love it. I love talking about my favorite subject, which is writing and publishing books. So yes, this is a great subject. Thrilled to be here.
Exactly. And this is one of the topics that I have encountered the most in the field that I am, which is personal branding. And why is that? Because a lot of people, at least business owners and professionals that I work with, in their path, they have always wanted to write a book. And of course, I did that myself. And in that path, I have learned there are so many myths and things that people think that are one way and end up being another way. And I think it's very revealing to hear from someone who's also written several books and then supported people in that path, just to share like some of the things that may be stopping you right now that can be put out of the way, and then you can write your book.
Well, there are lots of myths, as you rightly say. One of them, well, a lot of people want to write books.
Well, but
You
one second, Susan. I want to very briefly start with you sharing your story. Like how you got to write your first book, which is the one that has this big result, and then the others. But I think like a little bit, like um, in a short story, how did you end up writing books and being successful with that first one?
well, let's say that I had never ever thought about writing a book. Unlike many people who think they want to write a book, I'd never thought of it. I was in the speaking business and I went to the National Speakers Association, which is where a lot of speakers, professional speakers, are members. And I asked one of the old timers there, I said, what should I do? I'm brand new in the business. What will help me? And he said, write a book. And I'm like, "Oh, write a book? I'd never even thought about writing a book." So I thought about it and thought, okay, if I write a book, the kind of book I want to write is something very simple, tips, techniques, things that people can do easily. And that's exactly what happened. I actually got turned down by three publishers until I found a publisher that said, yes, we'll take a risk on you. This is my topic, and I have to say this is was a very not a very popular topic, and that was exhibiting at trade shows. Exhibiting at trade shows, tips and techniques for success. And they took it, they published it, and then I thought, I want to sell more than one book at a time. I went into a bookstore, I saw my book on the shelf, and I was like, somebody's going to pick this up. I need to get it out to more people. So I looked at the market that I was in, which is the trade show market, and I said, who my audience was the trade show exhibitors, people who exhibit at the show. And I thought, who else would have the same target audience as me and would be interested in the book? I thought about the people who make the booths, the stands that the exhibitors use. And so I approached a few of them, and one of them was very interested. And they said, okay, we'd like the book. They bought 250,000 that they had translated into 5 languages, Spanish being one of them. And then they liked it was so successful, they bought another 250,000.
Wow.
So it wasn't anything I expected. It didn't happen straight away. It took about 2 years for this to happen, to build the relationship and then to decide how they would use the book, who would get it. And so yeah, it surprised me and it also surprised the publisher.
Absolutely. And that's I think one of the philosophies that has stuck the most with me throughout the years since I met you is living this idea that selling books like one at a time, like, oh, I carry my books in my purse, or I go to this event and I carry a few copies, and then thinking from the get-go is how do I do this in book? How do I create relationships that would buy me several copies of the book? So in your experience, Susan, could you share, if you've seen people doing it one way or the other, like cases that you've had throughout the
Yeah,
years?
well, many of them, in fact, many authors who come to me, they think that all they have to do is put their book on Amazon, and all of a sudden they're going to be found and they're going to get rich and famous. Well, that very rarely happens.
Mm-hmm.
Just putting your book on Amazon is like putting it in a field with thousands of other books. Nobody's going to find it unless you tell people to go and get it at the store. Amazon is like a huge big store, a big shop window, and all the books are there. Um, so you've got to do the work in order to bring people. But it takes as much effort to sell one book at a time than it is to sell 100 books. I mean, you yourself,
Yes.
you did a speaking engagement, you sold 100 books, just
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
that. You know, you could have also sold one book. No.
Yes.
So,
Or two or
especially if you're
three.
speaking, yes, if you're
Mm-hmm.
speaking, having a book gives you a lot of credibility in the marketplace that you're an expert in the subject. You wrote the book, and then using it and making sure everybody in the audience has a copy. Don't sell the book at the back of the room. That's
Uh-huh.
for the birds. It's a lot of work. You take a box of books with you, and two people buy, and then you have to take a box back again. So you don't want to
Mhm.
do that. You want to
Exactly.
pre-sell
That's,
them.
I always hear that
Pre-sell
little
them.
voice in my head when I'm
Yeah.
around. have
Yeah,
a speaking. So it goes along because I also do have a program for people who want to speak in public, that it goes along. Like, yes, not only speaking, but by the time that you've been 5, 10 years doing what you're doing, you will have enough material to really put it in a book and then starting to expand the offerings that someone has.
absolutely. And
Hmm.
if you're speaking, record your speech and then have it transcribed, and that already can be the basis of a book. So it's
Yes.
make it easy. Sitting down on a blank, at a blank screen and trying to write is really hard.
Uh-huh. So
I,
so I wanna dig in a little bit because I know there are people who still think having their book in Amazon is the answer. So why what things they need to know or is important for them to know that like it might not be the one place that is gonna have them selling hundreds of copies.
yeah.
Why is that?
Amazon's not going to do that without your help.
Mhm. Okay.
Amazon isn't selling books. Amazon is showing your book. There's a
Uh-huh.
big difference between showing your book, having it in the shop window, and somebody actually buying the book. So
Uh-huh.
unless you've already sold, several hundred copies of the book, Amazon is, you're nothing to Amazon. You've got to
Mhm.
pay them money. You've got to let them see that you've got multiple sales. But that takes a lot of work. And for the time and effort it takes to sell a few books on Amazon, you can be selling 100 books at an event that you're doing, or you can find somebody who'd be interested in giving your book away. Think about, I like to work in niche markets, in vertical markets, so that you can specialize and find people who are interested in your subject. So
Mhm.
you've got the people you work with. I was just talking before I came on the air with you with a gentleman who's written a book for the for the printing industry.
Mhm.
And so he's going to be selling his book to small, medium-sized printers who need his technique for selling. So
Courses.
he's writing a book on selling, and it could be for many different markets, but his
Mhm.
focus is going to be on the printing market. And that could be for finance, it could be for education, it could be for healthcare. There are so many different industries, and if you
Mhm.
can make your book fit that industry that you specialize in, so much easier.
Yes.
I'm for the
That
easy life. Kareem,
uh-huh.
I want life to be easy.
That's very good. So there is one saying that I have, and maybe other authors that have published a book would agree with. To me, I for many years I thought writing the book it was going to be the most difficult thing. Like, oh, I have to come with this come from the heavens story and like being so great writing. And then when I did the whole process, now I say the easiest part is to write the book, because after writing the book, having the initial manuscript, there is so many other things that until you don't write, until you have the manuscript, you don't know. So then now I say, like, I mean, the easiest part is writing the book. So there is all these other aspects that I think it would be important for people to know the difference between doing self-publishing, doing a hybrid publishing, and a traditional publishing, because that also has a lot to do with what happens after you write that initial transcript. So could you tell us a little bit what's the difference between those three routes?
Yes. And the publishing industry is like a jungle, and it's sort of
Mhm.
learning your way, navigating your way in this jungle. So yes, as you say, you can definitely self-publish your book, which you go through the ropes of getting an ISBN number. You don't even have to do that. Amazon will give you a number. You know, I
Mhm.
mean, it's so easy these days to self-publish. The problem with self-publishing is that many people think if you've self-published your book, it can't be very good.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's true because that's a perception, and people's perception is their truth. And then you've got the other end of the scale, as you said, where you've got the traditional publisher. Those are the Wileys of this world, the Simon and Schuster, Random House, the big people. And getting getting accepted by them is getting harder and harder these days. Um, they are very interested if you're a celebrity. They want to know that you can help sell the book. So, in fact, when you actually write a proposal that you're going to be working with or trying to get a traditional publisher, you actually have to state your whole marketing platform, your marketing
Mm-hmm.
plan of how you are going to help them market their book. It never used to be that way, but now they've got so much competition out there with self-publishing and then the hybrid publishing, or the indie publishing, which is halfway in between, where every indie publisher has a slightly different model. My model through Aviva Publishing is that we've created an umbrella for you to self-publish your book,
Mm-hmm.
but you're published by Aviva Publishing out of New York. We're a New York publisher. So it's a very different model. However, you have to investigate which model is right for you. Traditional is very hard. Um, Self-publishing is easy. You can write a book in a weekend and put it up on Amazon.
It's
You
easy. I
self-publish
would
your
just put
book.
air
Doesn't
quotes
mean it's
because
a real book.
yeah.
You've got to,
Uh-huh.
yeah, you've
Yeah,
got to.
how I describe it, the self-publishing is like a Frankenstein book because the
I
person,
like
the
that.
writer, has to go and find like who's gonna do the editorial corrections, is gonna do the diagramming and the
The,
book cover, and who's gonna print it. So yeah, at the end of the
exactly.
day, it's like putting those pieces together, and
There are
the
lots of
author
pieces.
doesn't necessarily knows if if they're connecting to the main idea.
Exactly. I always
Huh?
say it's like a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, and each
Exactly.
piece, you have to put it together to see the picture. But you're
Hmm.
right, it's not only writing the book, it's getting it edited, and there are different types of editors. There's a
Hmm.
developmental editor, there's a copy editor, there's a proof editor, you know. Do you know these people? Who are you going
Hmm.
to find to do this? Then, as you said, the cover design. The cover is the most important part of the whole book, is what the
Yes.
cover looks like, because it's the packaging. It's what people see most, and people are attracted to it or they're not. The
Hmm.
title of the
Yes.
book is really important. And then obviously the interior layout and design is important. So you've got to know all these things. And I don't do all of them, but I know people and I know good people who do them. And so when, people work with me, when authors work with me, and I only work with nonfiction authors,
Hmm.
so when they work with me, I've already got the team of people who can help you do all of the things that you need to do to help get it to the bookstores, the publishers,
Hmm.
to Amazon. So yeah.
Yeah. So on the other end, I just want to share this is my personal experience with people that I've worked with, clients. When i- they get published by a traditional editorial. So as you say, in fact, the editorial says we're gonna support you a little bit while you launch the book, and then after you're on your own.
Hmm.
And that has happened several
Oh yeah.
times. And then I don't know in the US, but here I actually had someone whose book didn't sell the way they projected. And then after 2 years, they called this person and say, hey, if you don't want it, we're gonna burn the copies we didn't sell. So you either buy them from us, because at the end of the day, also the authorship of that book, it then goes to the editorial, so the author is no longer the owner of that material. So that's one. The other person, they didn't tell the person at the beginning, so once the book was about to launch, they're like, and now you have to send us your, all the thousands of people that you're going to sell your book, but they didn't say that at the beginning. And yeah, so I would say, and then there are people who know that they're like, I don't care, I still want to have this editorial being the seal of approval of my book. I don't, it's okay, like people are okay that they're not gonna sell thousands of copies of the book, or at some point they're gonna say, hey, we didn't sell your cups, your books, you want to pick them back. It's important to know it, because most people, at least the one that I've worked with, they didn't know that at the beginning. So it's
Yeah.
it's a like a hard punch in the face.
There are lots of everybody's got their own model. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I like you have heard lots of horror stories.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they publish through somebody else and then it's been a horror story and then they come to me. So I help fix horror stories. But yes, it's very, very sad and people are paying a lot of money and sometimes they get the book and that's it. Or
Yes.
the publisher says, "Oh, I'll do marketing for you." And what they do is they write a press release and they put two or three things in on social media, and that's it. Boom, finished,
Mm-hmm.
finito. But yeah, but you said something earlier about people think once they've done the book that that's it, once it's written.
Mm-hmm.
I had one author once say to me, "How long do I have to keep marketing my book?"
I
I
think a
said,
lot of people ask that.
I said, how long do you want to be selling your book?
Uh-huh.
Because it's all about you stop marketing, you're going to stop selling.
Mm-hmm.
You have to keep your book, just like you've got your book there and in front. I'm looking at your
Mm-hmm.
book. So
Mm-hmm.
everybody who listens and watches this is looking at your book. So what it's imprinted now in your brain that this is the book. I've got to get a
Mm-hmm.
copy. I'm interested. Oh, I like the design. Oh my goodness, I've got to read this book, you know. That's why
Yeah.
you've got to do it in English because I can't read Spanish.
Yes,
Sorry.
exactly. So, Susan, I really like the numbers that you have about how many new books are written in average every year, and in fact, how many copies does an author, average author, sells.
Yeah.
So, tell us about that.
So millions, over 4 million copies of books are written every year.
Mm-hmm.
And they're broken up into ebooks and fiction and nonfiction.
Mhm.
So there are
Every year,
there are
four
there are a
million new books.
boatload of books that are
Okay.
printed.
That's a whole new like city. I don't know which
Yeah,
city has that amount of people. That's a lot. Okay.
millions.
Uh-huh.
And the average number of books an author sells in the lifetime of the book is 250. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's the research that has been done. But most
250.
authors
Wow.
only sell about 50 copies of their book.
Yes, I have
And
seen
that's
that.
because they think that somebody else is going to do it for them.
Uh-huh.
And that's not going to
Yes.
happen. This is your baby.
Yeah.
You've got to nurse your baby. You've got to feed and water it and
Mm-hmm.
help it grow because you're not giving it up for adoption for somebody else to sell it for you.
Yes. And
Work.
and just listening to you, Susan, I really get the power of transforming whatever thoughts we have about selling. Because the other, like, if we don't do it, there is no way that book is going to be in somebody else's hand.
No.
Because somehow, and this happens, yeah, this happens fairly often. um Authors and entrepreneurs, business owners want to um I'm trying to look for the word in English. They have to have a third person doing that for them.
Yeah.
Outsource. They want to outsource their sales. They
Yes.
want to somebody else to come and, oh yeah, so yeah, the editorial, or whatever organization is going to sell my books. And then I have in fact met people who have in their garage the 1,000 copies or 2,000 copies of their book, and they don't know what to do with them
Yes.
because it's
That's
like
that's
they were
sad.
hoping somebody was gonna own that action for them.
Yeah. Which is why print on demand has become so
Hmm.
popular. In fact, I always say to people, if they don't know how many copies of the book that they're going to sell, do print on demand.
Hmm.
I mean, that's, Amazon's been doing this really well. Ingram Spark does it. There's several companies that do it. Book Baby does it. Lulu does it. So there are companies who help do this, but you just, until you know how many, because printing is probably one of the most expensive parts of the whole book
Yes.
process,
Mhm. Yeah.
getting it out there. And if you do a hardcover, and if you put color pictures, any type of color inside
Uh-huh.
the book, that's going to yank the price
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Unless you print 2,000 copies in China,
yes,
then it's gonna
then
be.
you go to China, but then
Uh-huh.
their minimum copies is 1,000 copies.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's a lot of books if you don't have
That's a
people
lot
who
of
are going to
books.
buy them. A
Exactly.
lot of books.
Yes.
So,
Susan, I forgot something that I think that's very important that I will also like you to talk about. And if it's the money that you make from a book when you do the your own sales
yeah,
versus if you do sell the book through a traditional
yeah,
distribution channel. Because
yeah,
I've always heard before I wrote my book, like, oh yeah, you're not gonna make money with your book, you're not gonna be rich. That, yeah, in a sense might be. And if you do it through a traditional uh,
public.
publishing path. If you're not Michelle Obama, you're not a celebrity, which is going to
Yeah.
be less chance of selling those books. It does make a difference. So tell us a little bit about how much money you could make traditionally and how much money you could make if you sell your own
Yeah.
copies.
So if you sell the book yourself, you only need to cover the cost of producing the book. Yeah?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you sell your book for $20, and it costs you $5 to print, you're making $15.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You still have to sell a quantity of the books for that
Covering the.
$15 to be 150 or 1,500 or 15,000. That's up to
Mm-hmm.
you. If you are selling it through some hybrid publishers, have you buy the book from them? So
Mm-hmm.
then you're paying, maybe 50% for the book. If you buy it from the publisher, traditional publisher, you can be buying it for 50%. So
Mm-hmm.
if a book sells for $20, you might be paying $10 to buy it. Now, it
Uh-huh.
depends on your arrangement with the company whether or not you will get royalties after that.
Mm-hmm.
So it gets very complicated.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. It's very seldom that people get rich on books if you're not known, if you're not a
Yeah.
celebrity.
Yeah.
So
And
don't ever think about the fact I'm going to write a book and it's going to make me rich and famous.
yeah. Well,
Very
so
unlikely.
what I would say, Susan, I haven't become rich and famous, but I have made profit out of my book, right? Which
But
is,
you've sold the book.
$15. Yeah. So, because I sell them myself rather than, because I do distribute it sometimes like through like a few channels. And then I get the other day I was telling you, right? Like I was getting 2 cents per copy
Yeah,
or $1 per copy, which is every I don't know 6 months. So that's the difference, making 60-70% profit rather than nothing, pretty
yeah.
much.
Several of my books, I've had three books published by um, traditional publishers.
Uh-huh.
And you're right. I mean, if I got a few dollars per book, it
Mm-hmm.
was a lot.
Yes.
And so it's the quantity. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
I get a royalty check after 6 months that, I've got a few $100s.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice extra money, but I'm not living off of that. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly.
So
It's not
it, it,
profit, profit.
you've got to sell a boatload of books if you're going to think you're going to be making money uh,
Yes.
from the book. Now, if you've got a book, you can speak, you can train, you can coach. These are all ways in which you can make money. And you sell the book as part of your speaking package, that
Hmm.
ups, you know, whatever you're earning.
Yeah, which is how you train me doing it. And
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
wanna kind of switch back because I think it's important if you guys don't know, whoever is seeing us right now is listening to us. Susan does have a group where she works with authors like me, training us in different ways how to market and publish. No, no more publish because we already published. How to market and sell our books. So what don't you tell us a little bit, Susan, about this group? Like, what's the main intention of it? And if someone is interested, of course, how they can find you.
Yeah. So, first of all, the group is called the Author Influencer Circle. Thank you for allowing me to share a little bit. It is a year-long program. And so we meet two times a month and we brainstorm ideas in one meeting where we ask for help from our colleagues because everybody knows different things. So it's not only me. Yes, I've got a lot of knowledge, I've got a lot of experience, but I don't know everything. And so I love it when the group can share between each other um, their resources. Oh, I know somebody who can do that. Or I know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. It's all about who you know or different ideas. So you're always very good. You come with, oh, I've got a question. How can I do this? How can I promote this? Or I'm going to be speaking. What could I be doing? And so we all give you some ideas. And
Mm-hmm.
then the second meeting of the month, we have a speaker come in who's an expert, maybe talking about doing podcasts or being a guest on podcasts or public speaking. We had a wonderful woman who came in and talked about public speaking. We've had people who come in and talk about audiobooks. So people who've come in and talked about AI. So we I try and expose you to as many different people who have got different specialty areas where you can learn more and will help you sell the books further.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
so if anybody's interested in finding out more, I want to have a chat with you. And
Mm-hmm. So how
so
can they find you, Susan?
they can find me. The best place is to go to
Mm-hmm.
bookmarketingbrainstorm.com, and it's just www.bookmarketingbrainstorm.com. And yes, they'll get an opportunity to fill in a form, tell me all about your book. And I'm only interested in nonfiction, so sorry, you fiction authors. Um, there are plenty of other people who will publish your book. And
Absolutely.
then we'll have a chat and see if this is a good fit for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I always like to get to know people, rather than just send them to a site. Oh, go look at this site. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I
of
want to get
course.
to know people. That's all
Yes.
about it's a relationship build business.
Absolutely. Susan, if you were to give one last advice to someone who's reading their book and maybe they're not selling it the way they want it, they don't know like what to do with it, what would be the one piece of advice that you would want to give this person?
Think niche markets.
Mm-hmm.
Think into smaller, don't think that you can sell this book to everyone. Yes, your book might be for everybody. You can't sell the book to everyone. So rather focus on a niche market, a vertical market where you can go narrow and deep and get yourself known, become an expert in that area. Doesn't matter if nobody else knows about you, but the people who need to know about you and your book will get to know about you. That work in a niche
Yes,
market. That's what it's all about.
I
Riches are in the
understand.
niches.
Riches are in the niches, and it's a craft. So
Yes, it
it's you
is.
do it until you really find the right place for people to find you
The
and
only way
see
that I managed to sell 500,000 copies of my book was in a
uh-huh.
niche market. I wasn't trying to sell to everybody because the book wasn't for everybody. It was just for
Hmm.
a specific group.
Yes. Susan, thank you so much for being here. I am so glad that I'm gonna get to see you soon because we see each other on a constant basis and keep learning from you. And if you're listening to us, if you're watching this video, make sure you find Susan because she also has so many value. Her podcast, she has a blog, she has her mail campaign. So you have value just exposing yourself
Get on my mail list.
the
Yes.
exactly.
Get on my
Uh-huh.
mail list. Yeah. Go to bookmarketingbrainstorm.com and we can talk about your book and see what we can do to help you sell books in bulk.
Exactly. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.